Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of Rimworld Odyssey. Last time we left off after beginning to build a slightly more comfortable base for our pawns, with fire breaks, bedrooms and a workshop, and while mental breaks remained a frequent occurrence, we eventually converted Teenager River to the Stars of Som and thus kick-started the rise of one core ideology. We performed the first conversion ritual and turned Reno around as well, assigned a moral guide, also Reno, and so our focus is now to slowly bring everyone around to the spacefaring idea. And just because I read some comments on the matter, don't worry, the spacefaring idea is also very much still alive in this series. We will definitely keep expanding the gravship and travel to new destinations soon. However, I also like the idea of having a place to come home to, even if it's just the place where our animals hang out. Our main base can definitely be the ship. To make that happen though, we need plenty more steel, and to get that we need deep drills, and until we have those, we are pretty much stuck here, so we might as well get comfortable. We also still have a prisoner currently being converted by Alex, since Reno is on a mental break. However, he soon snaps out of it and can now use his convert ability on Nailgraph, the last remaining permanent colonist not yet part of the Stars of Som. Brian then constructs a tailoring bench. We have one good crafter in Alexander, but he might leave in a few days, so let's get the most out of him while he's still here. The same also applies to his traveling partner Choco, who will likely make artwork for us until she needs to go, her first piece here fittingly about friendship. Now, after building some rather minimalistic fire breaks last time, I have decided to go for a proper wall after all. We now have the materials for it, and even though the construction will take a while, this will protect us not only from fires, but also from raiders, mechs and wild animals. And we are really not in a good place defensively at the moment. Some walls are the least we can do, I think. In the evening then, we've got the first marble statues moving into the bedrooms of Alex and Brian, making the daylilies no longer necessary and saving us the trouble of constantly having to replant them. Alexander has also crafted his first pair of pants. Alex is going to wear it. We prioritize pawns with tattered apparel for now to get rid of another mood penalty. A few moments later then, our goat Ruka gives birth, and so does Bison Dacanian a few seconds after. The young female bison will now be named Wheatley, after a channel supporter of the same name, while the young goat is unfortunately a male and we have enough of those, so Nailgraph takes quick care of it. Quite unexpectedly then, Alexander crafts a masterwork pair of pants, despite having a crafting skill of only 8. Hopefully there's more where that came from. On the next morning then, a new batch of rice can be brought in. Our food supply was a bit unstable for a very brief period at the end of the last episode. That should hopefully be fixed now. As Alex and Brian then plant new trees, we can also see that both of them have apparently tried to romance the other, as they both have been rejected by each other. So how about we help them along a bit? The success chance here is barely 18%, but this is Rimworld, and well, sometimes stuff just works. Brian and Alex are now officially back together. This is fantastic news, not only for storytelling purposes, but also for their mood, as simply being around each other will give them a substantial boost, not to mention the nighttime activities they can now engage in if we build them a proper double bed. And so, overly eager to get those started perhaps, Brian chops down some trees outside our base, and then Alex constructs the bed itself. The evening sets in soon after, accompanied by a rainy thunderstorm. We bring in more rice, and Alexander makes our first duster. Time to get Reno out of that burqa and have him show off that beautiful Itakin fur of his. The bedrooms are then quickly rearranged. Reno also benefits from this by getting Brian's old room, while Brian and Alex can now spend their first night together, at least their first night in this stint of their relationship. Reno, meanwhile, pays a late-night visit to our prisoner and successfully converts her, which means we can now set our sights on recruiting her. at least until we know for certain whether or not Alexander stays around, who fits a very similar profile as a dirt mole miner. After a few hours, the thunderstorm is also replaced by a grey pall, and once more that means we've got a fire going in the grasslands, and this time we are not going to fight it, as our colonists need their sleep and it's so far away we'd need to mobilize everyone, I think. I'm sure we'll get those walls up in time though. On the next morning, the grey pall vanishes and fog settles across the grasslands. As you can see, we've got 2 big fires raging, but they are spreading slowly and our wall is making good progress. That is also about the most exciting thing happening on that day. In the evening, Rimworld's ever-reliable anti-fire rain sets in and quickly extinguishes the flames, and on the following morning a group of sheep joins us. 3 males and a female. We're going to keep one of each. The female will be named Laura and the male Booker, both names of channel supporters. The other 2 will be slaughtered, unfortunately. Sheep wool is not really an essential material in this game, I feel, and they don't provide milk, so having a pair to mate should be enough. At this point, we also unlock microelectronics, a major research milestone. However, to keep researching deep drills, we need a high-tech research bench now, and we are lacking the components to build one. So let's unlock smithing next, which eventually leads us down the research path to make our own components. Reyno's convertibility is also ready to go again. Nailgraph remains the target for now, and it is also Nailgraph who quickly slaughters the 2 sheep that won't stick around. In the evening, our wall project is almost finished. Brian and Alex have gained some good construction experience here, and we watch Alexander venture out to mine the few components that naturally occur on this map, just 6 in this vein, but there are 2 more. On the following morning, we then receive a quest to take in another guest, this one a lot more entitled though, and so our small Grasslands outpost might not be a suitable place for them. Nonetheless, we could gain another colonist as a reward who looks to be a formidable fighter, that is admittedly all they're good at, and the low sleep gene pack is also not too shabby, although gene modding is definitely not high on our list of things to do at the moment, and the combination with very unattractive might also make this less desirable. Still, let me know what you think we should do here, as Alexander finishes another duster, and Randy finally sends us a threat, a psychic ship. Could be better, could be worse. For now, it's only a -12 mood penalty for our female pawns, and the mechs are not attacking immediately, so we can prepare a bit for this. Let's start by locking up our base. That seems sensible to me. Then we are informed that smithing is already unlocked. Wonderful. Up next we go with machining, a necessity if we want to unlock fabrication to make our own components, and of course to make our own guns too. The psychic ship is quickly showing its first effects as well. River has another tantrum, nothing unusual for our teenager so far, but with her targeting our valuable ship thruster, Brian shuts things down quickly by putting her in timeout. This makes another mental break likely very soon, but perhaps that one will be a little less destructive. At this point, we now install some doors into our walls, and we're also visited by an exotic goods trade caravan, 7 people and their pack animals, perhaps just what we need to deal with that psychic ship. First of all, though, we want to take note of a little problem. Our 2 guests, Alexander and Choco, are about to leave in only 6 hours. For a direct fight against the mechs, the 2 would be very useful, but it seems like we won't pull that off in the remaining time for various reasons, one of them being Choco suffering a mental break. So instead we send Reyno out to deal with the traders, and as much as it pains me to do this, we could really use the advanced component here to construct a ground-penetrating scanner soon, so we are selling our oldest goat, Corsero, 12 years old and at the end of its lifespan, and what little plasteel we have to just meet the required sum. Then we take the machine pistol off of Alexander, who would otherwise take it with him when he leaves, and instead equip it with Alex, who can now use the trader's presence to go muffalo hunting. The close-range machine pistol has a high chance of turning hunted animals manhunter, and the first target is quickly enraged, so we have Alex run back into the base, where the caravan is already waiting. And there we go, lovely stuff. How about we do that again? Once more, a single animal is going berserk and we quickly lead it back inside, where the traders make quick work of it. Just in that moment, we are also informed that our two guests have decided to leave our colony again. Choco is still suffering from hallucinations, but should make it off the map on her own eventually, while Alexander spent his last few hours digging out a few more components. While they now leave, Alex triggers one more manhunting revenge. This time it's 2 muffalos chasing her, but the traders pack enough firepower to deal with that. On the next morning then, we prepare for the psychic ship, and since destroying it will eventually bring the mechs to our base, let's close that off now before we do anything rash. With most of the construction completed, Nailgraph can already head out to take potshots at the ship from afar. This will wake up the mechs, but they just roam around for now, unless we get too close. The hunting rifle is actually a perfect weapon for this, with its combination of range and fire rate, while Nailgraph's shooting skill of 5 could obviously be better, and shooting at an inanimate object will unfortunately not raise it one single bit. The traders then decide to leave, so much for backup, but our base is now walled in and we can work on a small defense setup. I refuse to call this a kill box. This is the kind of defense that I think actually makes logical sense, a small corridor with traps that our pawns can conveniently circumvent. Sadly, River suffers another mental break due to the drone, and we're going to need her for the eventual fight against the mechs, although considering how poorly Nailgraph is aiming and how little damage he is doing with each hit, she will likely recover way before they launch their assault. In the evening then, the traps are being placed. 3 of them will likely not be enough to stop the entire group of mechanoids, but they also might not need to. More on that in a moment. For now, we are informed that Reno's animal war call ability is usable again. That could come in handy. And we are also putting some wood flooring down in our bedrooms to make them look a little nicer. Reno can also launch one more attempt at converting Nailgraph, but it is still not enough. The next one might just get him there though. Then we're doing something creative perhaps. If the Empire is offering us a lazy pawn who won't work, we might as well accept that offer. The reward here likely won't matter, but we're going for that fighter guy. Anyway, as soon as our guest lands, we take a look at her stats, rejoice that she's not incapable of violence, and equip her with the machine pistol. Then we send her south towards a sizable herd of muffalos, and we want to get close here, hopefully triggering a manhunter revenge. And that works out just like I had hoped it would. The entire herd is now on our heels. Back home, Brian quickly closes all doors, while our poor guest now leads the animals straight towards the psychic ship. Thankfully, she moves just a tiny bit faster than the muffalos. Unfortunately though, she needs to get very close to the mechs here in order to draw the animals' attention over to them, which comes with the expected consequences. Now, I was briefly thinking that she might make it, but sadly not all muffalos were immediately distracted by the mechanoids, and so the unavoidable happens. Luckily, she does not die immediately, but things are looking rough. Let's see what the animals can now do against the mechs. Alright, our guest is more resilient than anticipated and rises again to hobble back to the base. Her burst of energy is short-lived, however, as the mechanoids are just now finishing their muffalo slaughter and set their sights back on our royal visitor. And with only 3 hours left to live and in close proximity of a group of mechs that has unfortunately only lost a single pikeman, I don't dare mount a rescue mission, Nelgraf was running over for that, and he might now at least get a chance to pick off the Scyther, who seems to have taken an interest in our waster. So let's keep at it to maintain that interest as we lure the enemy back to our base, one more hit for good measure, and then we hope that our traps are enough. And there we go, lovely. That leaves us only with 2 pikemen and a harmless militar, while our guest sadly meets her end in the grass. We fail the quest, but only suffer a small faction relation penalty. I suppose that's what you get for expecting the hard-working folks in our colony to take care of a pampered royal. A harsh lesson perhaps, but one that may have just saved our skin. Now begins the tedious bit though. The other mechs will likely not be so easily fooled, and to get them into our traps, we need to destroy the psychic ship first. That ship now also increases its intensity, the drone now at medium tier, but Alex and Brian seemingly don't care and decide that now is the perfect time to get engaged. Well, it's great to see that they are taking things more serious this time around, but let's hope they can wait with the ceremony until the threat is dealt with. After a few more hours of nighttime target practice, Nelgraf has the psychic ship down to below half health, but I don't want to tank his mood too much, so let's give him some sleep and continue on the following morning. It's only a matter of time now, time that the rest of our colony has spent bringing in a sizable corn harvest, although it seems like they forgot about the dead muffalos a bit. In the early afternoon then, it's finally time. Nelgraf lands the final shot and the psychic ship is no more. Apart from dropping valuable materials, this now also sends the 3 remaining mechs towards our base, so let's prepare for combat. Brian drops his flak vest and pants to give them to Alex to keep her well protected, and just like that the militar is already here, but falls to the first trap. Our 3 fighting colonists move out of the way as the pikemen arrive, and we get lucky here. The first goes down after just 1 trap, normally that takes 2. Our hiding spots also force the other mech to enter the base, where we can immediately lock it into melee combat, and then one swift shot from Nelgraf delivers the killing blow. So, there we are, our first mechanoid threat of the series has been defeated, and we didn't even take any damage, at least not with our 5 regular colonists. At this point, we now send out Brian to deconstruct some nearby steel ruins, while the rest of our people quickly bring back the remains of the psychic ship. With those, we can now, in just a short moment, construct the high-tech research bench, but first we need a bigger lab, and that means our kitchen will also have to move. In the evening then, we experience the first of Rimworld Odyssey's new terrain events. The small river dividing the map is flooding. Now, luckily, we have walled off the parts of our base bordering the stream, so this won't affect us much. However, if we had plants growing on the river banks, those would now be drowning. We've also got a new batch of chicks hatching at night, but for a change we're not keeping any of them. I don't want the chicken population to grow completely out of control, at least not until we expand our pen a bit. On the following morning then, our new and improved lab is done. Time to place that high-tech research bench now that will be so important for our continued survival here in the Grasslands. Reno goes on a psychite binge, but we can live with that. Thanks to the components Alexander mined before departing, the new research bench is swiftly completed, and I think with that we have reached a good point to make the cut for today. Now, since the episode was pre-recorded, I'm currently traveling for a few days, there wasn't any new fan art I could include, but of course, feel free to keep that coming. I'm sure today's events will spark a few creative outbursts. And that's all for today. As always, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, you can go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.